Radio presents.
I guess you can be very successful without one, and probably some people do. But I would not have accomplished anywhere near what I have accomplished without a mentor. I have had a number of mentors.
We may not get more of our video. That was Bob Proctor. I'm Sid Maestre. I'm a certified consultant with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. Now, our program today is Thinking in Results. It's our premier program. It's a 6-month program of intense elite coaching, mentoring from Bob Proctor. And today, we're going to be looking at Lesson 4, The Secret Genie. But backing up on Bob. Bob was studying Think and Grow Rich for over 50 years and teaching personal growth and motivation success. And what we have today is a culmination of his 50 years of study and teaching, put in a very concise manner to get the message across and be able to help you change your life. Thinking in Results, change your thinking, change your results, change your perspective, change your life. Well, we operate on 3 levels. We're spiritual beings. I get confused here. We're spiritual beings, we have an intellect, and we live in our bodies. Today, we want to talk about the intellect, your mind. And our stick person, which is the title of our lesson today, looks like this. We're not used to using this on my camera. So we're using the head being bigger because we got a lot to say about it, and the body. At the top there, we've got the 5 senses: see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. That's all the information that's coming into our body that we've been trained to respond to. But we want to talk about the mind. We're looking at the conscious mind, the thinking mind, and the subconscious. The conscious thinking mind is where you live, and you're reacting to everything that's coming in from outside. And then we get the subconscious. The only thing that goes into the subconscious, everything can go into the subconscious unless we stop it, which means we have a whole lot in our subconscious mind. We call it our paradigm, with our habitual habits. And the subconscious mind is the emotional mind. And what we call feelings is our conscious mind's a word for emotions. The conscious mind, the thinking mind, directs what it wants the body to do, but the subconscious executes it, our plans. And a lot of times our plans go awry, as they say. Things that we don't do, that we want to do, but the paradigm stops us because we're not programmed for it. So today, I'm going to introduce one of my students, John Gage. John Gage. We're coming in and out here. John Gage is a trained voice actor. He's one of my favorite students of Thinking in the Results. You can bring on John.
Thank you for having me on, Sid. Apparently we're having some technical difficulties, but it is storming over here, so
I understand. Well, I'm so happy to.
What's that?
I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
And I was talking about the conscious, subconscious mind of the subconscious executing and doesn't always give us what we want. And to change the paradigm, to change those habitual habits that we've identified that aren't working for us, we have to get the polar opposite. Can you tell me, John, about one of the situations that you've used effectively?
Well, I mean, like my job is changing and moving to a different department, so they're training me, and there's some financial issues, things that I don't completely understand. Plus, there's lots of verbiage that needs to be learned. So, I'm having to learn that. I'm struggling with it a little bit, but especially the verbiage. The numbers are pretty easy, but there's some things that I would like to know so that I could advance further, because I actually thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. And so what I've decided to do, I've done things like signed up for school. I plan on getting my master's degree in finances, and I'm going to minor in communication, because I need to learn how to communicate properly. Because because I deal with banks all the time, I deal with the Federal Reserve, I deal with a lot of things. So, and they have very, very specific ways of communicating. So I'm having to learn how to do that, because that wasn't something that I've been trained in. I'm improving, but it's one of those things that you can improve and improve, but I would like to accelerate my abilities to communicate a little better. Actually, a lot better. Communication, I'm learning, is very, very key in a lot of things.
I'm looking forward to coming to your graduation.
Me too.
Tell me about your health story, because I've always admired you, what you've been through, how you've come out of the fire.
Well, let me tell you, son.
Take your time.
Health is we take our health for granted, my friend. Well, probably the wrong word. I had, as you know, I started this several years ago, and my living situation wasn't the greatest. And we talk about perspective. One of the things that lesson 4 really talks about is understanding how our mind works, and the little stick figure. The biggest thing I took away from lesson 4 was we think in pictures, because that's not something that you consider. But after 30 years of marriage, I had a pretty nasty divorce. I'm not even sure why it happened to this day. And I allowed my health to deteriorate. And that's one of the things I learned with thinking into results, is you need to take responsibility for how you think and how you perceive the world, because perception is a big part of how we function. So I ended up, in 2021, I ended up in the hospital 12 times in 7 months. The beginning of 2022, I ended up going to the hospital for 2 months. They had hypoxia. There wasn't a pulse in my feet. They told me I would never get off oxygen at 9 liters, which, if you're a medical professional, 9 liters is like massive amounts of oxygen. And they told me that I would probably never walk again, and they considered amputating my legs from the knees down. I got out March 18th, 2022, and I lived on the west side of the country. And before the end of 2022, I met my wife, current wife. We made a decision to live together. I decided that I wasn't going to be on oxygen. I decided that I was going to walk again. And here we are just over 2 years later. And because I set my mind to getting healthy, my legs have a pulse. They were black all the way up to the knees. They're no longer black. And I know this may sound a little, but it's a truth that people need to hear. And you need to understand that what we think will change who we are. And this has turned me into somebody completely different. So first I had to get to where I could breathe again. So I started doing breathing exercises. I do those to this day. I get up in the morning, I go sit outside. I do 8 minutes of breathing. I take a cold shower to excite the endorphins in my brain and make my liver function in a very specific way. And I have it's still hard for me to walk. So I have an earth magnet that I put on my feet while I work to discharge negative energy. And as you know, I write down everything I eat now. I take very specific vitamins for certain aspects of my health to improve it. And since I started writing it down, we talked about that. I've lost 28 pounds. I weighed myself Monday at the doctor.
That is terrific.
It is. It feels really good to not hurt as much as I used to. So, and it's all because I decided to take what was in my conscious brain and move it to my subconscious brain. Because one of the things we learn in this is that your subconscious brain only sees one thing, and it's that truth. It doesn't see a lot of times anxiety comes because our conscious brain is arguing with our subconscious brain, and fear comes from that. And you have to convince your subconscious brain that I weigh 275, and now my subconscious brain, I've sent you videos from several different people say, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? Because you are my mentor. So I'm like, what do you think? Is this a good idea? I'm eating this way. Is that a good idea? What do you think? And all these things are coming to me because my subconscious is going, okay, well, if he says he's 275, I better get him down there. Because I've read that affirmation. I'm happy and grateful that I now weigh 275, have a 40-inch waist, 72-inch chest, 10% body fat. I walk 1 mile per day, do a full body workout 3 days per week. I eat all natural healthy foods, keeping my mind and body at a healthy peak performance. And I read that every day, and it's sitting right in front of me. I read it off my computer screen. But
I like that.
It's a very, and we have to do that. We have to convince our subconscious in order for things to change.
Tell me, we had a discussion in more detail about your written communication skills.
Well, the written communication skills, like I'll give you a minor, because I can't really go into too much detail, but I deal with the visa system a lot, and I deal with recovering funds for fraud. And Visa will reject a lot of cases because of the way they're worded. Even though everything they want is within that body of that document that's attached to it, it's not worded correctly. So I had to spend time learning the verbiage that Visa wanted in order to recover the funds for my client. So I would have to take, let's say they said, oh yeah, well, this, I ordered this from the website, and I come to find out that it was a fake website, and, and I can't get my money back. So, and I spoke to him on this day. Well, Visa wants to know what the response was even though it says it's a fake website, obviously there's no response. So we have to go back and say, okay, was there a response? Yes or no? No. So I fill in the little bit of blanks I need, and I take what they said on such and such a day. You know, this happened. I even had one. This is funny. I had a customer that was treated poorly in a restaurant, and they left after talking to the manager and asked, and they still charged them even though they said they wouldn't, and then they refused to refund their money back, and they'd taken their meal to the manager and said, you know, we don't like the atmosphere, and it was not a pleasant situation. And Visa comes back and says, so what was the product and how was it returned? And it was a dinner that they purchased. I'm like, and it was all in the document. And I'm like, are you serious? So I had to take the document, and it was all there, and just say, on this date, the card holder ordered this meal, this happened, this situation occurred, and they felt uncomfortable eating there, so they picked up their meal, delivered it to the manager, and said, I don't want this meal because of this situation. And the manager said, okay, we won't charge you. And they did anyway, and now they're refusing. And when the card holder contacted them on this day, they told them, no, we're not going to refund you your money. And 3 days later, Visa refunded their money. And it was the same thing, just worded in a different format.
Yes.
It's taken me a while to learn this because I don't have that formal education. I'm fortunate my wife does. You know, so I've learned a lot from her by saying, how does this sound? You know, and she'll go, well, no, you need to do it this way. And of course, she's got a Harvard education, so I'm fortunate there. not proud of it.
You're blessed. I believe we were talking also about your listening. You had something about your listening.
Yes, and you know this. I had, due to my living situation and the things I allowed to happen to me, I had a very low self-esteem. So I had to be right. So I would talk over people. I would finish their sentences because I knew I had to be right. So I've had to really, that was a hard one. But I'll tell you right now, listening has become a bigger blessing. And the way I listen, and I have to be really conscious of it still, even though I've been practicing it for a couple of years, I've been really practicing hard to listen, keep my mouth shut and let them complete, especially in business, but in private as well, and allow them to complete a sentence. So this is how I finally put it together. I allow people to finish their thought, because a lot of times they'll pause and you'll hear and then I would interfere. I stopped doing that. If I'm not understanding, I will ask for clarification. And even if I do understand, I still ask for clarification, because that's acknowledging that I heard what they said and I understood what they were saying to me. And then I don't, if I have a issue with it or I wish to discuss it further, my next statement is, may I ask a question? And you're going to ask my wife, when you hear, may I ask a question? The question is going to be, and what I've learned to do is say, okay, so if I understand this correctly, because you clarified it, you said that this is this and this, how does that work in this situation? And is it appropriate? Even though I know it's not going to work in the situation and it's not appropriate, they need to answer their own question. And that's what I'm learning about active listening.
I like that, John. When you talked about finishing people, is it finishing people's sentences?
Oh yeah, because I was so much smarter than everybody.
Well, it took me back to when I was in college.
Mhm.
I had a roommate, and he just spoke slower than I did. And I would finish his sentence. And because I'm paying attention, I was right on.
Right.
Literally, I think most of the time. And at some point, I distinctly remember and says, will you stop finishing my sentences?
Yes.
And now I only do it when I'm watching a movie. I'm at home and I'm watching a movie, and I'm thinking
in the movie.
of the next word. And literally every time, and it could be a movie that's from the 40s or 50s, just because I'm paying attention to what they're saying, by logic, this is the next thing they're going to say. And I get a kick
like
out.
watching. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I get a kick out of that, but I don't.
I like watching mysteries so I can see if I can solve it before it's solved in the show. I do that a lot. So,
John,
yes, sir.
You said something magical, and that you learned about. We think with pictures.
Yes.
Think in pictures, and I thought that I didn't know how to visualization, meditation, that it was an effort. And most of my adult life, that was my paradigm, my perception of what visualization was. And then I go to a Bob Proctor seminar, first time I met him in 2015. And he says, we think in pictures. And I realized I only have to think of something. I'm going to see it.
And that's very profound, because we don't think we think in pictures, but we do. And when you step back and you realize it, you go, "Oh, we do." And another thing that he said, it wasn't in this lesson, but he said that everything that we have today was already here. We just didn't know how to access it. Which is another profound statement. And that's a perspective, because, and I brought it up because this is about changing the perspective of our brain. I mean, because if we don't, I mean, it's like, and I learned that correcting one habit can lead to correcting others. It's like my affirmation for listening. It says, I'm happy and grateful that I'm a better listener. My communication skills, both written and spoken, have allowed my career to expand exponentially because I am a better listener.
I really like that, John. That is really perfect.
Because that's like my weight loss goal. In order to accomplish some of the things I want to accomplish, I have to get the weight off first. And it will happen.
That changes your self-image.
It does.
We're talking about thinking in pictures. When you have a goal, and one of the things that Bob, we have a goal card where you write what you want. And if you go to go to my website, we can direct you where you can print your own goal card. But the beauty that I learned with Bob, that you carry your goal card with you, and whenever you touch it, the picture that comes in your mind is what the goal.
Yes. Yes.
And the longer that, the more frequently you do that, the picture gets more clear. And it's not effortlessly. Your mind, when your mind knows what you want, your subconscious mind knows what you want. I like to say, what you want is vibrating at a higher frequency than you are.
Yes.
And every time you think and picture in your mind's eye what you want, you're sending off that vibration of that, which will attract what you want. I like to say,
Very
when
much
you
so.
know what you want, the universe will conspire to bring it to you, give it to you.
It's the subconscious mind only accepts truth,
Yep.
and whatever you believe is its truth, so it seeks it out.
Yes, and often that's how replacing the listening of feeling that you're not an effective listener. And you've had a picture like that. Now you've got a goal. You've got an affirmation written down. It's in your conscious mind to listen better, things that you're explaining. And I really, I like what you're doing, John. You've just come such a long way in all areas of your life.
Thank you.
And in particular, the most important is Elizabeth.
Very true.
Can you tell me how that came about?
Well, it was about 4 months after my horrible breakup after 30 years. I knew that I needed to improve myself, so I was on Facebook at a Tony Robbins seminar, and we were talking, and we ended up going into a room together, and we ended up talking over Facebook and video chatting back and forth. And after I got into the hospital and got out after the 2 months, she decided to come and visit me. And she thought she was going to have to come to my apartment there in Las Vegas. And she didn't, because I forced myself off the oxygen before she got there, because I wanted to be able to go out and do something with her. I didn't want her to be restricted to being at the apartment. So that's, and then even then we didn't kiss till I got here in September. So, but I believe that made our relationship much stronger, because I learned about her, she learned about me, and both of us made adjustments because we wanted to be with each other.
Where are you living now?
Florida, northern Florida. So, and I like it, actually. I haven't seen green for 9 years, because I lived in Las Vegas for 9 years. So it's nice to see green and water everywhere. I'm telling you, go outside and I can go fishing just around the corner if I want. There's that much water here, and I like that. So
yeah, I got a lot of desert and 120-degree heat.
Yeah,
but I got air conditioning in my house, in my car.
That's good.
And wherever I go. But I'm looking at the time, and I just want to say a few things about the next lesson that we'll be talking about.
Okay.
The lesson is thinking in the results. And the most important thing in there is dealing with our intellectual faculties of how we're using our mind.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with imagination, intuition, your memory, reason, perception, and will. And people don't know they have that in an organized fashion, the way we're teaching it. But we're solving problems, or we're in perception. That's with a capital P in there, which we mentioned earlier. Everything comes from our perception.
Yes.
Of what we believe, how we behave, and we're responding to our feelings, what we're seeing, because we've been programmed how we grew up, and it takes a conscious effort and some coaching similar to what we have in thinking and results.
It does.
And I see I'm almost out. So go to Sid Maestre.thinkingresults.com. look at the site, and you can contact me if you'd like to have a conversation, learn more about thinking and results. Next week, same time, 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Sid Maestre and John Gage.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.
You did great, John.
Oh, thank you.
Real good. I like that we had